So here we are. The journey is part of the destination. Exactly. So we have arrived toward the end of the book of Bereshit. And I should say, because I know some people are already starting their winter travels, we will be posting the class now every week. I think it will go on the weekly Shar e-newsletter with a little button you can click to view it. And then it will also be linked to the website, but I'll send it out to all of you on your emails because now I have. And if anyone has not yet put their their name and their email address down, you can pass that around one last time. We saw that at the beginning of Bereshit, death is death. It comes, it goes. If someone is alive, then they vayamot, they die. Except for that terrible murder. We saw with the deaths of Avraham and Sarah that death was a part of the legacy. The burial was very significant in terms of acquiring a piece of the land of Israel. We saw the beginning of someone thinking about the end of their life, Avraham wanting to tie up loose ends, Yitzchak also wanting to bless his children in his old age. We saw both Avraham and Yitzchak get to be buried by their children who were feuding in their lifetime, come together in the end to bury their father very beautifully. And we come now to the death of Jacob, of Yaakov, which will begin on page 268. This is the beginning of Parshat Vayechi. So it's chapter 47, beginning with verse 28. And Yaakov, I have a little handout today, actually. Because we're going to be posting these online, I'm trying to simplify by not really having handout. And as you know, I also really love just looking at the text for itself on its own terms. But I felt I would be remiss if I didn't show you this text that highlights something we mentioned in the last class about the fact that Avraham was the first to look older, to get that gray hair, that crown of gray hair is something that would demand respect. And Jacob was the first to be ill before he died. So we're going to be on page 268. But for now, we're looking at the sheet that just went around. This is in the Talmud, in the Babylonian Talmud, Tractate Baba Metzia, page 87a. And I'll read a bit in the Hebrew, a bit in the English. Ad Avraham, until Abraham, lo haya zikna. There was no, it's not that people didn't get old, but there was no aging. And so someone who wanted to speak to Avraham would accidentally speak to Isaac, and vice versa. Someone who wanted to speak to Isaac would speak to Avraham, because they looked so much alike. Father and son looked like brothers, looked like twins, looked like each other. And Avraham, Ata Avraham, Ba'a Rachme, Avraham came and prayed to God for mercy. He prayed that he should look older. And aging was finally, the havazikna, was finally noticeable or recognizable. And the hook into the text is ve'avraham zaken ba beyamim, which we read last week. It was the first time that the text tells us someone was zaken, someone was old, because it was the first time someone actually looked older. And it was something he asked for. There's a more extensive midrash also about this, but that's the gist of it. And then Ad Yaakov, until Jacob, lo hava chulsha. There was no illness before death. Rather, one would die suddenly. Ata Yaakov ba'arachme. So Jacob came and prayed for mercy, and illness was v'hava chulsha. Illness was brought into the world. And there's the translation that we're looking at, the bolded words are actually the text of the Talmud, and the non-bolded words are kind of a little bit of filler help from the translator. So you can see in the non-bolded words, it says, illness was brought into the world, allowing one to prepare for his death. That's what's implied here. If someone would just up and die one day, they didn't have a chance to say goodbye. But Jacob was the one who asked for that privilege, for that chance to say goodbye. As it says to Joseph, behold, your father is sick. As one said to Joseph, excuse me. So, what was that? Are we good?
Yeah.
Okay.
The question was, is it a privilege to be able to say goodbye? No, that's not.
It sounds like Jacob wanted that chance.
In order to say goodbye.
That's what it sounds like. Jacob wanted a chance. Jacob didn't want to die suddenly. He wanted to know that his death was imminent. So, of course, we want it to be perfect. We want to have a chance to say goodbye, but we don't want to suffer. We don't want to suffer an illness. So just, give me a couple of days. I'll understand the end is coming, and then peacefully in my sleep, right? Like we want that. That would be the perfect plan. Opportunity to say goodbye. Nice. So it's the first time that the Torah is recording someone being sick. So that's where this midrash then develops out of that. So let's read. Excuse me. Okay. Vayechi, Parshat Vayechi. So that's the end of that text. But we're jumping right into the Torah text now. Vayechi Yaakov be'eretz Mitzrayim. Jacob lived in the land of Egypt 17 years, and the full years of his life were 147. Verse 29, Chavtet. Vayikrevu yemei Yisrael lamut. So the time of Yisrael, of Jacob, Yisrael, interchangeable, right? At this point. The time of Yisrael's death approached. Vayikra livno leYosef. So he knew his death was coming. He knew he had the chance now to call to his son, to Yosef. Vayomer lo imna matzati chen beinecha simna yadcha tachat yirechi. Please swear to me, essentially. The expression, please place your hand under my thigh, is an expression of swear to me. This was a gesture of swearing. Ve'asita imadi chesed ve'emet. Al natik bereini b'mitzrayim. Don't bury me in Egypt. And look at that phrase. Do me a chesed ve'emet, a kindness and a truth. So this may be a foundation for the phrase of chesed shel emet, a true kindness, which is what we call the kindness done to the deceased, to bury the body, to give a funeral, a eulogy. Chesed shel emet is a true kindness because it's a kindness that can never be repaid. So do me this kindness, this true kindness, because A, I won't be able to be here to see whether or not you're going to do it, and B, I can't pay you back for it. So it's pure chesed to give someone a burial. So don't leave me here, Jacob says, but when I lay with my fathers, please transport me, v'shachavti im avotai, unisatani mi Mitzrayim, ukevartani b'kvuratam, bury me with them. Where? In the cave of Machpelah. He doesn't have to specify that here. Vayomar anochi e'echsech idvarecha. So Joseph swears. He gets the satisfaction of Joseph swearing, and I'm sorry, he says, I will do as you say, and he says, swear to me. Yishav ali vayishavalo, and he swears. Vayishtachu Yisrael al rosh hamita. There's an interesting power dynamic here. Who power dynamic? Who has the power here? So Jacob is saying, swear to me. Joseph has the power. Joseph is the one who will or won't carry out Jacob's wishes. Joseph also is the monarch. And so what does Jacob have? He just has the ability to make him swear it. And at the end, this gesture of Vayishtachu, that he bows to his son. He bows to the second to the king, right? To the second to Pharaoh. So that's end scene 1. Okay. And it seems that his days were not that close to death, because now verse 48, Vayihi acharei hadvarim ha'ele, sometime later, Vayomer leYosef hine avicha chole, your father is dying, Joseph. Your father is sick. So this now is going to be a deathbed scene. We haven't had a deathbed scene yet in the Torah. We've had farewells, blessings. We haven't had really the final moments of someone's life. Please.
It says in the previous verse, Israel prostrated himself toward the head of the bed. Is that meaning that he bowed to Joseph?
Yes. He's bowing to Joseph. He's bowing to his son. That's what I'm talking about. There's a power differential here. And it's the son who seems to have more power, and the father who is in a very strange reversal of role. The father is bowing to his son. Yeah. And there's a bed, by the way. We haven't had a bed yet. There's literally the mitah, and the bed is going to figure very prominently in this narrative. Yeah.
If someone asks you to do certain things when they die, do you have to do them?
So the question is, if someone asks you to do certain things when they die, do you have to do them? Yes, but...
Like cremation.
But, exactly. But if that comes in conflict with Jewish law, it gets more complicated. Even when someone is alive, if your parent commands you, tells you to do something that's against the Torah, you're not compelled to listen. You don't have to listen. If your parent says, eat this cheeseburger, because I am your mother and the Torah commands you to honor your father and your mother, there are limits to that commandment. Yeah. What's that? So this is not against the Torah. I'm not talking about this example. But if he makes him swear you shouldn't swear. Don't swear to eat your cheeseburger. Yes?
What if a parent who's dying asks siblings to make peace with each other?
Oh.
And they say yes, parent dies, and they don't.
So if the parent at the end of his life asks the children to make peace, they say yes to appease dad, let him feel he's dying, right? And then dad dies and they don't. So it's not so different. It's not so different from what's about to happen with Jacob's death, and then the brothers start to butt heads after his death. But the difference is then they kiss and make up. I mean, what if they should make peace? Yes. Yeah. It gets very complicated. Do you know that there's something, I think it's in American law, I didn't look this up in Canadian law, it's been a little while, but there's something called deathbed testimony or deathbed witness, and that something that someone says on his deathbed is considered binding, is considered trustworthy, and upheld, I'm not a lawyer, but I upheld, it's an exception. Okay, there you go, thank you. But so it holds in court.
Yeah.
Deathbed testimony holds in court.
That so and so on his deathbed said that.
So
And
I can
normally if
I
I
can
testify in court that somebody said something,
It's
doesn't-
hearsay.
It doesn't prove that they said it. But if they
So generally, if I say someone else said it, it's not good
they
proof.
said it, but it doesn't prove it's true.
It's hearsay. But if I say someone said something on their deathbed, it stands.
It's not hearsay.
It's not hearsay.
It is admissible as.
Thank you,
proof of
Lila.
the whatever.
It's admissible evidence. So
You can always believe or not believe.
so let's keep that in mind as we're about to hear Jacob's deathbed testimony, deathbed words. So you should go, Joseph. Go to your dad. He's really on his last legs now. terrible. Okay, go see dad. He's very sick. And so Joseph goes. Who does he take with him? Vayikach et shnei banav imo, et Menashe ve'et Ephraim. He takes his 2 children. Vayaged leYaakov. It was told to Jacob, Vayomer hinei bincha Yosef ba elecha. Your son Joseph is coming to see you. Which makes me wonder, how often did he go see his dad otherwise? Was he too busy? I just want to make sure we leave room for the 2 who are going to come late, but there is one there, there's one there. Okay, great. So if Joseph is coming in, now Jacob, again, as an act of reverence for the royalty, Vayitchazek Yisrael vayeshev al hamita. He sits up in his bed. He gathers his strength. Verse 3, and now I'm on the top of page 270. I don't want to read this whole scene word for word, but this is his final speech first to his son and then to the rest of the children as well. God had come to see me and had promised me, you're going to have a nation. And look at verse 5. Now he turns to Joseph. He says, Ve'ata shnei vanecha hanoladim lecha be'eretz Mitzrayim. Those 2 sons who were born to you in the land of Egypt before I came, ad bo'i elecha Mitzrayim lihem, they too are mine. Ephraim u'Menashe should now be like Reuven and Shimon. It's beautiful. My grandchildren are like my own children, or at least Joseph's children, not all the grandchildren. So he's establishing Joseph as the Bechor, as the elite, as the firstborn almost, as the successor, as the one who is prominent among the other children. And he's elevating Ephraim and Menashe to a higher status, to the status of the Shvatim, of the tribes. So later, when the tribes are each getting their allotted portion in the land, Ephraim will have a portion, Menashe will have a portion. The children of Reuven don't get a separate portion. The children of Yehuda don't get a separate portion. There's a play that Jacob has been doing all along, elevating Joseph, right? It started with that colored coat.
My question, he didn't learn from experience.
He didn't learn from experience.
Joseph to be alienated from his brothers. I mean, you asked the question,
Yeah.
what if you promise on the deathbed
Yeah.
kids should play nice with each other?
It might be a blind spot, but look,
God is very
Jacob
forgiving.
himself became the favored one of his mother. Look at the household he was raised in.
It's fixed.
Our ancestors are all flawed.
They're flawed, they're not perfect. He may be, but he is establishing something that follows through Joseph's life and to his children's lives.
It makes an argument for that because if
Maybe.
it just followed,
Right. He's working against the law of the land, what's expected. So he establishes a higher status to Joseph's children. Then he says, he connects it to the inheritance. Their children will have nachala, will have inheritance. And then he mentions something sort of out of left field. He says, look at verse 7, and by the way, your mother Rachel died on me. Meta alai Rachel. Died on me. On the road, and she was buried right there. B'derech Ephrata hi Beit Lechem. Why is he mentioning Rachel's death right now? It's the mother of Joseph. So it might be because this is the defining or a defining event in Jacob's life. And even at the end, when you ask someone, tell me about your life, they pull out what has been most prominent for them. And this is the tragedy of his life, losing his beloved Rachel at such a young age in childbirth. Another possibility is to mention why Rachel was buried where she was buried, because that's not where he wants to be buried. And he doesn't want Joseph to think, maybe I should bury him with mom. No, bury me with Leah, bury me in the cave of Machpelah, in Ma'arat HaMachpelah. That's the family burial place. Rachel's burial, it was a fluke. It was not what we intended. Then he turns to the grandchildren. What's that? Oh, we don't really exhume. I mean, it's a big question to exhume bodies. Also, I think in those days it probably wasn't as simple. I don't know. That's never entertained. So the burial of Rachel, the burial place of Kever Rachel, becomes its own shrine, essentially, a place where people go and pray. There are seats right there, 1 and 2. Okay, so he turns to the children. He says, "Tell me about your children. Who are these?" There's a great mi'ele. There's a great conversation to be had about the status of Ephraim and Menashe, even though they're elevated as Shvatim, as the tribes are. He also, there's different ways to read this. One might read this as an ambivalence. When you see these children, they look like Egyptians. They were born in Egypt. They were raised in Egypt. They're wearing the Egyptian styles, maybe. Tell me about your sons. Tell me about your sons' values. And Yosef's answer, verse 9, Vayomer Yosef el Aviv, Banayhem asher natali Elokim bazeh. God gave me these children. I'm still oriented towards God, and so are they. And Yaakov seems satisfied by that. Vayomar kachem na elai va'avarchem. Bring them to me, I will bless them. I will give them my approbation. I will bless these children. It's a moment of approval and inclusion of Ephraim and Menashe. And then there's a beautiful scene of a grandparent with his grandchildren. He brings them close to him. He kisses them. He hugs them. And he says, this is one of the most touching scenes and one of the most touching sentences in all of the Torah. Verse 11, Yud Aleph, Vayomer Yisrael el Yosef, Re'o panecha lo pilalti. I wouldn't have even prayed to see your face. V'hinei hera oti Elokim gam et zarecha. And now I see even your children. I thought you were dead. For 20 years I thought you were gone. And now I get to hold and kiss and hug your children. That's nachas, right? Nothing like the nachas of grandparents. Yeah.
That brings me back to something. When we were talking about why he elevated, another reason why he elevated Joseph, he was elevated in his mind all along. But the other sons kept it from Joseph all those years. They didn't tell him the truth. They lied. They were all of, and they
Right.
get a lot of points.
There's definitely the relationship between Jacob and the other children. There's strife in both directions. He favored Joseph, showing them disfavor, and they withheld this secret. But they didn't necessarily know where he was, but they knew he wasn't dead. They made up a story, right? Taruf Taraf Yosef, who was torn apart by a wild beast. They showed him the coat soaked in blood.
Gave him the idea that his son had died.
Yes, yeah, things were not great. Things were not great between Yaakov and his other children. So you're saying that highlights even the connection that he'll feel now to Yosef and to Yosef's children. Mm-hmm.
Joseph didn't know his mother because she died while giving birth to him?
She died while giving birth to Binyamin. So that's, yeah, so whether Joseph has early memories of his mother or not, we wouldn't know. But he would have been very young when his mother died. Yeah. So this is it. It's dad, right? So, right.
So where was everybody else?
What was that?
The whole family was traveling when she was giving birth.
Yes. Okay, let's get back to this text. So this is now the scene of Ephraim is the younger, Menashe is the older, and Yaakov goes like this and gives his right hand to the younger I don't know which way I just did it, but and the left hand to the older, and Yosef says, no, Dad, I know you can't see very well, but this one's the older one, and he says, I know what I'm doing. The younger one will be greater than the elder, which is a continuity of this theme of elevating Yosef over his brothers, just as Yaakov the younger twin was elevated over Esav, and Yitzchak the younger was elevated over Yishmael, and the theme of kind of the underdog, or the one who doesn't, who has to work for it, who isn't handed the Bechorah, the birthright, has to push for it in many different ways. Yaakov is establishing that as a pattern, that this tiny nation, you could even extend it, right? This tiny nation who shouldn't be as prominent as they are, like Ephraim, is elevated to leadership, symbolized by the right hand, and he gives this blessing. Verse 15. This is the only time we have a grandparent's blessing. And by the way, the Koren Sidur has a Simchat Bat ceremony, a beautiful baby naming ceremony for a girl, and includes this as a grandparent blessing, for a grandparent to bless the baby, because this is the model of a grandparent's blessing. And he blesses them with Ha'elokim asher hitalchu avotai lefanav Avraham Yitzchak. So he says, he blesses Joseph, it says, through his children. The God before whom my forefathers, Avraham and Yitzchak, walked, God who shepherded me, asher haroeh oti me'odi ad hayom hazeh, who's brought me unto this day, hamalach hagoel oti mikol ra. So this is the song. Hamalach hagoel oti comes from right here. That protective angel of God who has protected me, who had blessed me, also bless the children. Yivarech et hane'arim, and call upon them my name and the name of my forefathers, and v'yidgu larov, may they be abundant in the land. So this is the bracha. And then we have Joseph kind of interrupts. You could imagine the scene. We have the full text of the bracha, but I would imagine after the first two words, Joseph said, no, stop, Dad. It's the wrong hand, wrong kid. And he says, I know what I'm doing. Okay.
Do you think that's the origin
And then,
of double crossing?
which that means something else. And then he continues, the last line of the page here, verse 20, he continues to say, not only should you be a blessing, but you, Becha Yevarech Yisrael Lemor, the children of Israel should bless their children by your names, Ephraim and Menashe. Look at the top of page 274. They should say, Yisimcha Elohim ke Ephraim b'chi Menashe. May you become the model of blessing. So we've come full circle back to Avraham, where God said to Avraham, V'heye bracha, you shall be the blessing. Now Avraham's how many greats? Great-grandchildren? Great-great-grandchildren. Right? Avraham's grandson was Yaakov. His great-great-grandchildren are being established as the text of the blessing that we do say. We still say to this day. Yisimcha ke Ephraim u'ke Menashe. And again, the text notices he put Ephraim's name before Menashe. Okay. Who was their mother? The daughter of Potiphera, Osnat bat Potiphera. Osnat is the wife of Yosef, and that ostensibly is the mother of Ephraim and Menashe. That's all we know of. So, and she's not Jewish, or she's not an Israelite. But we don't worry about that yet. What? Matrilineal descent comes later. Moses also married a Midianite woman. I mean, with this, yeah. In the days of Ezra, in the days of Shivatzi, of the building of the Second Temple, when there was rampant mixing with surrounding cultures, and they were taking pagan women, and he says, enough is enough. No more.
When would
5th century BCE, 6th century BCE.
So when was Ruth? Was that before Ruth?
No, Ruth is earlier. Ruth is much earlier. We should do our timeline again at some point. We should do that again. Okay.
Why is it a blessing to be like Ephraim and Manasseh? What is the
So you're asking what's the meaning of saying may you be like Ephraim and Manasseh? Well, it's interesting. We don't bless may you be like Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. We don't. We bless like Ephraim and Manasseh because Yaakov established that. Why? Because Yaakov established that. Because it's a text. It's a biblical text. It's rooted. I mean, we can ask. Yes. Yeah.
sense in terms of they were born in Egypt, they lived peaceful, comfortable lives. They didn't have the traumas of displacement.
Right. So I don't mean to poo-poo that question. There are two ways of answering that question. A textual way to answer that question is we have a biblical text that says, bless your children this way. So that's a textual answer. There then could be a philosophical answer. Why would we be looking to Ephraim and Manasseh as the models? So I wonder if because it's about continuity and about children who, as you say, were not born in the days of the promise, in the days of the Brit, of the covenant, but were born elsewhere at a different era and still were welcomed into the covenant. It's a beautiful model for us to bless children. Like Ephraim and Manasseh too became part of this nation, you too should become another link in our chain. And I don't know if you remember when we studied the book of Ruth, but I mentioned this then. We have this biblical text, the biblical roots of the blessing to bless sons like Ephraim and Manasseh. There's no reason we can't bless daughters like Ephraim and Manasseh, by the way. It could be a non-gendered blessing. It just says, Becha Yevarech Yisrael. The Israelites should bless their children with, may you be like Ephraim and Manasseh, but we've established gendered blessings. So we say Ephraim and Manasseh, so let's put Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah. We bless the daughters that way. However, Rabbi Henkin, B'nai Banim, and I'm blanking, oh my gosh. His name is going to come to me as soon as we, yeah, I know, right? It's not an age thing, unless maybe I am getting old. It's, right, there's no brain cells left, that's it. But he says, we have a blessing, a biblical blessing, in which women are blessed. And it's in the book of Ruth, where Ruth becomes part of the nation of Israel towards the very end of the book. And the women turn to Ruth and say, may you be kirachel u'kileah asher banu shtehem et beit Yisrael. May you be like Rachel and Leah who built the house of Israel. And Rav Henkin says, that's the text we could use for our daughters. It's much more authentic than making up this fluffy Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah. And they're not even parallel to Ephraim and Manasseh. Like, we're not saying Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Where are we pulling Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah from? It's very nice, and we want to bless our daughters. But we have a text in the book of Ruth, and he suggests it. And once I read that, I was sold. And that's what we bless every Friday night, actually. It's not in your siddur or your bencher, It's a little bit maybe edgy. This is Orthodox feminism, right? We want to give our girls something just as authentic as the boys have, and so we bless with that language from Ruth because of Rav Yehuda Herzl Henkin. It came. I think that was right. Okay.
Going back to why we do Ephraim and Manasseh, when when his father asked Joseph, who are these boys?
Mm-hmm.
He said, they are my sons whom God has given me, which meant, or if I'm correct, I don't know, or it's my impression, that he hadn't given up on the God that he was brought up with.
Right.
So these
It's
boys, in spite of the fact that their mother was not
Yes, yes.
were brought up.
So I think that is one way of reading it. It's not my own. I've seen it that Jacob is hesitant when he sees these Egyptian children, and Joseph answers him with the name of God, or with reference to God. These are the children that God gave me. Don't worry, we're still oriented toward God, and rest assured that they are continuing the ways of you and our forefathers. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so Yaakov has, first of all, he's established. I mean, this is a living will, right? He's established, or not a living will, it's a will. He's established where he wants to be buried. He's accomplished changing the status of Ephraim and Menashe. So he's made it clear what he wants, how he wants people to see Joseph's children. And now he gets his final words, his goodbyes, his blessing that he gives to each and every one of his children separately. So actually, when I was in grade 5, we had to memorize this, Birkot Yaakov. And it was a song. This is the beginning of chapter 49 on page 274. He calls in his sons. He says, I'm going to tell you what's going to be at the end of days. Rashi notices he doesn't say anything about the end of days, and says, in that moment he was going to tell some kind of secret, and then the Ruach HaKodesh was taken from him, prophecy was taken from him. He couldn't tell them whatever secret he was about to tell them, but instead he can bless them at the end of his life. So we don't want Yaakov. Yaakov seems to already have one foot in the next world, and we don't want him to give up too many secrets. So instead, he kabtzu v'shim'u b'nei Yaakov, shim'u el Yisrael avichem. Even in the same breath, he calls himself Yaakov and Yisrael. Listen, my children. Listen to Jacob. Listen to Yisrael. This was the song we memorized. Reuven bechori ata kochi v'reshit doni. So I can still say some of it today. And this is a class unto itself. Reuven, Shimon, they each have a different blessing, which some of which are blessings, some of which is admonishment. Shimon and Levi, for example. Many of these come with an image. Gur Aryeh Yehuda, Judah is a lion. He does become a leader. And when you see all of the symbols of the 12 tribes, on stained glass windows or other pieces of art, it comes from these texts. Zevulun is like a ship, the Chof Yamim. Yisachar is a chamor, is a donkey. So they each have, in the nicest way possible. Dan is a nachash, is a snake. On and on and on. Binyamin, Ze'ev, a wolf. Okay. So go to the bottom of 282. Kohl Shivtei Yisrael Shneim Asar. These were the 12 tribes of Israel. Bottom of page 282, verse 28. And this is what Yaakov said to them. V'zot asher diber lahem avihem vayivarech otam ish asher kivirchato beirachotam. Each one got his own personal blessing. It's beautiful. There's no cookie cutter blessing, even if you have 12 kids. Vayitzavotam vayomer alehem. So this is the wisdom of having a pre-meeting before the meeting. If you're going to have a board meeting and you want to establish policy, you assemble your allies first. And he's about to tell them, don't bury me in Egypt. But who he already told? Who does he tell? He told the one who really holds the power. So he preempted the meeting with a meeting. He set up his allies. He set up Joseph to swear. So Joseph can't say, in that moment, Joseph can't say, well, how are we going to get you out of here, out of Egypt? He now says to all the children together, so they're all on board, Vayitzavotam vayomer alehem ani ne'esaf el ami. I am about to die, be gathered to my people, which is this euphemism. I'm about to die. Kivru oti el avotai, bury me with my fathers. El ha'me'ara asher bisdei Ephron ha'chiti. Now we get the details. That cave in the field of Ephron, the cave which faces Mamre, the land of Canaan, with which Avraham had purchased, etc., etc. Verse 31, Shama kavru et Avraham ve'et Sarah ishto. This is where we buried Avraham, Sarah, Yitzchak. Shama kavru et Yitzchak ve'et Rivka ishto. V'shama kavarti et Leah, and I buried Leah there. So he does not want. Leah was also his wife, right? He had 4 wives. So the 2 primary wives, Rachel and Leah, were not buried together. Rachel was buried on the road. We already had that. So Leah, he says, he is articulating right now, bury me with Leah. There's a great irony in this. I don't know. I haven't seen this anywhere, but it recalls the sister wars that happened continuously through their lives. Rachel is the beloved one. Leah is not. She, wasn't even. He didn't want to marry her. It was only because of the sister switch that he ended up married to Leah. And then who has the children? Leah has the children. So Leah is fertile. Rachel is infertile. And then there's the scene where Leah's son Reuven barters with Rachel and gives her the fertility drugs, the dudaim, and says, send Jacob to my mother's tent, to Leah's tent. So it's this whole play of who is Jacob sleeping with. And because of that night, Leah becomes pregnant again. I think it's the fifth, sixth, I can't remember now. But now who does he sleep with? At the end, he's sleeping with Leah. He's not laid to rest with Rachel. Yeah, it's just interesting if you follow that thread. He's side by side with Leah and not with Rachel. And Rachel is this tragic figure who is beloved, but is kind of always getting cheated out of what she wants. There's another possible message. I don't know. I just thought of this in this moment, but.
And I'm just thinking of this, that it's not that he's not lying with the right wife, but he's choosing his parents and his heritage over his wife.
Oh, he's choosing legacy and parentage over love, over being with Rachel. And what would happen if Yaakov had asked to be buried with Rachel? That would take away from the focus of Avraham and Sarah and Yitzchak and Rivka. So he knows his place in the nationhood. And he knows he needs to be buried beside Leah so that he could be buried in the Ma'arat HaMachpelah. Yeah, that's interesting. They buried Rachel on the road. Well, because you bury right away. You're not going to wait another 5 days till you get... Right. She doesn't get Ma'arat HaMachpelah. Yeah. But he, as the patriarch, will take his place among the patriarchs. That's very interesting. Because you don't choose love. By the way, it's beautiful. They have an amazing love story. And it's one of the few places where that love is sort of dwelled on a little bit. Remember where it says he worked 7 years for Rachel, and they were like 1 day because of his great love for her. But ultimately, he chose the nation over his personal love. Yeah, wow. Oof. Yeah, either way. Sure, yeah. Okay, we're getting off off topic. I want to make sure we finish the story. So, Yaakov, it's like perfect. He finishes verse 33. Vayechal Yaakov. He has a sense of completion. Vayechal Yaakov letzavot et banav. He finishes instructing his sons. Vayesof raglav el hamita. He gathers his legs into the bed. Vayigva vayasef el amav. And he expired and was gathered to his people. And by the way, I mean, I don't have a lot of intelligent things to say about this, but Rashi, in quoting the Talmud, says it doesn't say the word vayamot, and he died. It says he vayigva, which is a synonym for and he died, but it doesn't say the word vayamot, which then the Talmud says Yaakov Avinu lo met. Jacob never died. Jacob lives on forever. The reason I say I don't have something intelligent to say about it, because then we're going into the mystical realm. What does that mean? Jacob never died. Yeah.